The most interesting race, I think, happening in the country over the next year and a half is in Texas. And it's not even a general election. It's a Republican primary for Senate between U.S. Senator John Cornyn and Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. Now, even if you don't live in Texas, even if you don't care about the Senate, this is a really important race about the power of MAGA and the power of Donald Trump and his supporters. So I want to get into it. By the way, also a very important conversation about the Senate and who controls it. So let's start with the basics. John Cornyn has been in the Senate since 2002. Very standard issue, Republican, conservative, pre-Trump. Lower taxes, smaller government, etc., etc. Tall guy, white hair, looks like a U.S. Senator if you look him up in a book. Voted very consistently, conservatively over time. Why is he getting a primary challenge in 2026? Well, Ken Paxton, Texas Attorney General, is MAGA through and through. This is the guy who led the lawsuit after the 2020 election to overturn the results in the swing states that Donald Trump lost. The one that made it to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court dismissed it, that was Ken Paxton. He was leading the way. He is MAGA to the core. He is a guy who is, like Donald Trump, been in a fair amount of legal wranglings over the years. He has never, also like Donald Trump, he's never sort of been brought low by those things. He's managed to kind of steer through a series of legal issues and issues within his own party, again, very like Donald Trump. And he has decided that John Cornyn is not conservative. Actually, conservative is the wrong word. He has decided that John Cornyn is not Trumpy enough to represent Texas in the Senate. Now, I will also note that Ken Paxton has decided he doesn't want to be Attorney General anymore, and he wants to move up the political food chain, and the Senate makes sense because it's there in 2026. But so Paxton is trying to make this a race between a real Trumper and a fake Trumper. And I would say, remarkably, Paxton is clearly the front runner at this point to beat the incumbent Republican senator in Texas. So, Punchbowl News, which is a site that covers Congress, came out with a poll by a pro-Cornyn group called the Senate Leadership Fund that had Cornyn behind Paxton 56-40 in a Republican primary. That's not the only poll. There have been several other polls out there, private and public, that have shown Paxton ahead of Cornyn between 16 and 20 points, which is a stunning thing because, again, John Cornyn, no scandals. He is not sort of a rhino. Like, his voting record is pretty conservative and pretty Trumpy. His campaign notes that he votes with Trump 99% of the time. It's just tonal for the most part. John Cornyn is kind of a sober, serious establishment guy, and Ken Paxton's more of a bomb thrower, more of a sort of provocateur, more in the Trump mold. That's the only difference here. And yet, if you buy the polling, the incumbent senator who has been there not for nothing for more than 2 decades is in deep, deep trouble. And there's a lot more to unpack here, both about what Cornyn does and what that means for the Senate. Before I do that, I want to make an ask of you. I want you to subscribe to this channel. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to use the word independent, and I'm going to explain it in 2 different ways. I am independent from billionaire owners and corporate media conglomerates. It's just me. I'm telling you what I think, unvarnished, honest, and authentic. No one is telling me what to do. No one is telling me what to say or not say. That's number one. Independent in the second way. I'm independent from the 2 parties. I spent more than 2 decades working at big media organizations, Washington Post and CNN most recently. I am calling balls and strikes no matter what uniform the batter at the plate is wearing. I think that's a value. More than 80,000 people have subscribed to this channel because they think it's a value, and I hope you do too. So hit that subscribe button. Okay, so the situation, at least today, May of 2025, is John Cornyn, the incumbent senator from Texas, is running behind Ken Paxton, the attorney general who is challenging him in a primary. So what does John Cornyn do? He has 3 options as far as I can see it. Option 1, he says, okay, I might be behind now, but I think I'm a better candidate than Paxton. Paxton's got all sorts of baggage. As I mentioned, he's been in all sorts of legal wranglings, and he's a very controversial guy. I can use that against him. I'm going to raise a bunch of money, and I'll be able to outspend and build a better organization. We're behind now, but we can win. That's option 1. Option 2 is he says, okay, we probably can't win. a primary, but I don't want to leave the Senate. So I'm going to run as an independent. We saw Lisa Murkowski in Alaska do this when she lost a primary. She lost a Republican primary, ran as an independent, and won. A write-in candidacy, nonetheless. Cornin could go that route, though ballot access laws in Texas are complicated, so it might be hard. And he's been a Republican his whole life. Does he really want to leave the party over this? So that's option 2. Option 3 is he just retires. He says, I had a good run. He was sort of the runner-up to lead the Senate majority to John Thune from South Dakota. John Thune is now the leader. Cornin is not. Maybe he packs it up and calls it a career rather than risking loss. So those are the 3 options. If he takes option 1, which is fight it out, or really option 2, which is go independent, man, it is going to be ugly and extremely expensive. And I think even if he does it, particularly if he tries to fight it out in a Republican primary, I still think he's probably an underdog to Ken Paxton in a primary, just because Paxton is sort of that MAGA DNA in a way that Cornyn never will be. And if Paxton is the Republican nominee, whether Cornyn runs as an independent, Cornyn retires, or Cornyn loses a primary to Paxton, that's a problem for the Republican Party, not just in Texas, but nationally. Because here's why. Republicans have a 4-seat majority in the Senate. They're likely to keep that unless some states, like Texas, come on the board for Democrats. If John Cornyn winds up being the Republican nominee, and again, I think that's less than a 50-50 proposition, but let's just say John Cornyn winds up as the Republican nominee. I don't think Democrats are going to win that seat. I think it might be a 4, 5, 6, 7-point race, but I think Cornyn probably would get reelected. If Ken Paxton is the nominee, man, there's going to be a lot of Republicans who live in and around Houston, in and around Dallas, who do not want to vote for Ken Paxton. He is not their cup of tea. He is too controversial, too much of a flamethrower, doesn't fit what they want. So if Democrats had a credible alternative, like, say, former congressman who ran in 2024 for the Senate, Colin Allred, former NFL linebacker, that might be potentially appealing. Now, Allred lost to Ted Cruz by double digits. It was not particularly close, even though Democrats said it was going to be close. But 2026, if it's shaping up how I think it is, which is Trump is not going to be particularly popular. He'll be more popular in Texas than he is nationally, but he's not going to be particularly popular. That could be a place where if the national landscape is tilted a couple points toward Democrats, and you have Ken Paxton, who is not going to be what a lot of Republicans in that state want, and you have, on the other hand, Colin Allred, who is, cast himself as sort of a moderate, we could be talking about a real race there. The polling that I've seen suggests Cornyn would win, and it's basically a toss-up between Paxton and Allred. I think Allred looks at this and thinks, man, there's a better than 50-50% chance Cornyn is the nominee and Paxton is, and why wouldn't I run given those odds? So Texas is not a place where you might think you'd get an interesting general election race, but that primary between Paxton and Cornyn, it's not just a fight for control over the Republican Party in Texas. Is it MAGA original recipe, or kind of like the Cornyn establishment with MAGA grafted onto it? It's not just that, because if Ken Paxton is the nominee for Republicans in the Senate in 2026, there's a real race that could happen in Texas if Colin Allred runs, where Democrats, we could be talking about a potential Democratic steal. I don't mean stealing the race. I mean kind of taking a race that shouldn't be competitive and making it competitive in the Lone Star State. I think if you're a Republican nationally, you have to be aware of that. At the same time, I'm not sure you can stop Ken Paxton, right? You can keep Donald Trump out of the race. Maybe Donald Trump even endorses John Cornyn, but I don't know if you could stop him, because I think he is kind of that original MAGA DNA that a lot of people like in Texas and in Republican parties everywhere else in the country. So a fascinating race that I will be keeping an eye on, and you should too. So I already said you can subscribe, and I hope you do. It's free and it's easy. Hit that subscribe button. You can also like and comment on this particular video. That helps my stuff get out to more people who don't subscribe already. I'm making 8-ish videos a week. I'm doing a live stream where I answer your questions every Friday. I'm making tons of YouTube content. I really think, again, independent from big media companies, independent from the two parties. I hope I'm occupying that space. I don't think there's that many people who are doing it, so I hope you can support what I'm doing. Last thing I always ask of you, tell a friend or two, somebody you see in the grocery store, somebody you see at the post office. Tell them, hey, this guy's doing this stuff. I think it would be interesting. Give it a try. Again, it's free. So give it a try. Hit that subscribe button. I'm thankful for you. Everybody take care.